Chapter 3039 begins with Gary, who, after leaving the social event, reflects on her recent interactions, particularly with Camryn. She laments her situation, feeling trapped between the orders of Mr. Lab and her personal feelings. She reveals her resentment toward Camryn, whom she sees as both a rival and a test of her loyalty to Mr. Lab. Despite her best efforts to act in accordance with Mr. Lab's instructions, helping Karen instead of sabotaging her, she feels insecure about her performance. She is keenly aware that Cameron may be testing her, and this realization makes her anxious about potentially failing in her role. The bodyguards accompanying her reinforce this concern, reminding her that any slip up could have severe consequences, especially given Cameron's sharp intuition. Carrie's internal conflict highlights her sense of inadequacy and fear. Despite the training she has undergone, her fundamental character flaws, jealousy, insecurity, and a tendency to act rashly, remain, making her vulnerable to being exposed by someone as perceptive as Cameron. The bodyguards, recognizing this, decide to report the situation to Mr. Lab, further emphasizing the precariousness of Gary's position. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to Cameron, who is on her way home with the three wives of the York family. Rosella York, her mother in law, expresses concern about Cameron's ability to navigate the social circles of Witherspoon's upper class. She asks if there is anyone else Cameron would like to socialize with beyond Riley Erickson. However, Cameron reveals her pragmatic approach to friendships within this elite society. She acknowledges that these social circles are difficult to penetrate and that the relationships within them are often superficial. Cameron has no intention of forcing her way into these circles or cultivating friendships based on convenience or social standing. Instead, she prefers to let relationships develop naturally, only deepening connections with those she finds genuinely worthy of her trust and friendship. Her response reassures Rosella, who has been concerned about her daughter in law being bullied in such a competitive social environment. However, after witnessing Karen's handling of the situation with Samira Levine, Rosella realizes that Cameron is more than capable of standing up for herself, even in Callum's absence. This newfound confidence in Cameron's abilities prompts Rosella to reflect on the qualities she appreciates in her daughter in law. The conversation between Rosella and Cameron also touches on the recent revelation that Samira Levine harbored feelings for Callum. Rosella, worried that Cameron might misunderstand the situation, is quick to defend her son, assuring Cameron that Callum had never reciprocated Samira's feelings. However, Cameron remains unfazed, expressing her unwavering trust in Callum. She acknowledges that given Callum's qualities, it is natural for him to have admirers. She goes on to reveal that even Carrie had once admired Callum, which adds another layer to her complicated relationship with Carrie. This revelation leads to a discussion about the Newman family, particularly Carrie's mother, Mrs. Newman, who had ambitions of marrying her daughter into the York family. Cameron recounts how Mrs. Newman had assessed the York brothers, ultimately deciding that Callum, with his gentle and caring nature, would be the ideal match for Carrie. This calculation was made despite Mrs. Newman's past and her questionable morals, including her alleged involvement in the death of Camryn's biological father. Rosella, shocked by these revelations, reflects on the audacity of Mrs. Newman's ambitions. She expresses her disdain for Mrs. Newman and her family, making it clear that even without Camryn, she would never have allowed her son to marry into such a family. The chapter concludes with Rosella's reaffirmation of her appreciation for Camryn, contrasting her with the manipulative and morally dubious Newman family.